Hello, lovely humans. I'm Luna Robbie, and you are listening to Sex Stories, a podcast of personal histories where we learn from each other and practice deep, non judgmental listening in order to co create a more loving world. If you want to express your love for this show, you can find ad free episodes on Patreon, get personal with me on OnlyFans, sign up to be a guest, and check out the awesome brands to support our show. Links are in the description below or visit sexstoriespodcast.com. Now, please enjoy this episode. Our guest today is a 39-year-old straight white cis woman who has been mostly monogamously married for 6 years to a partner she met in high school. She's a bit of a brat, likes to fight and lose, which can be a tricky thing to negotiate outside of a formal BDSM context, and aside from being topped, is into sex worker rights and history and loves offering stories that help us release ourselves from internalized whorephobia and shame. Yes. She is the host of the Oldest Profession podcast, as well as founder and, I meant to ask you this. Edie, in this context, is executive director.
Correct, yes.
Okay. I knew you weren't an erectile dysfunction, but I wasn't sure what you were.
It's not an inaccurate statement. Like, sometimes I bring a lot of soft dick energy to my team, and it's like, it's hard. They have to deal with me because I'm the boss. That's what being the founder is. The person that other people have to deal with.
So, okay, the founder and executive director of Old Pros, a nonprofit that uses storytelling to advocate for sex worker rights and performs and tours all over the world. An army brat who mostly grew up in North Carolina. With us today from New York City, welcome Kaytlin Bailey.
I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm so excited to hear everything we're going to hear. But first, could you please start out by telling us if you had to rate yourself on a sexual shame-o-meter, with 10 being so full of sexual shame and 0 being like, I do not know what that is, where do you fall today in this moment? And when, if ever, has your shame-o coaster squiggled around?
Oh, goodness. There's so much squiggling. I feel like I oscillate very quickly, and maybe indistinguishably in like a 4-6 of just like,
Oh,
I'm just a person. I'm just like in range. And I try to be gentle with myself with mixed results. And, I try to keep it together and be in society with mixed results. And so, I'm just like the rest of us, mostly feral creature doing their best impression of like an adult in a society that has a weird relationship with
yeah,
sex energy. So it makes
yeah.
sense that, as a product of this culture, I have a weird relationship with mine.
Yeah. But even when you're performing, I feel like I was watching you a little bit and I was like, that's gotta be a 1 or a 0.
Oh, that's really funny. No, 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 no. I talk about this a little bit in the show. I'm a pro sex positive. I travel all over the world educating people about sex worker history. I am an out open sex worker rights advocate, and all of the shame monsters live also in me. I
Mm.
am like just a person, struggling with orgasm, struggling with body stuff, struggling in relationships, struggling with the myriad and varied and contradictory messages that we get about what should be, even as I know that there's no such thing
No
as
such
should.
thing as shoulds. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there shouldn't be any shoulds.
Mm-mm.
Like that's the thing.
Yes.
And we're practicing. We are always practicing, and I'm excited to be practicing. And thank you for that vulnerability right off the bat. I didn't even have to like poke the questions to get there. That's
Um,
awesome. Well, would you feel comfy telling us, or at least not too uncomfy to try to tell us, what is sexy to you?
right now I am spending a lot of time on lit erotica. I came up reading my porn. I was raised on Anais Nin. Even though that's true, I'm not confident that I pronounced her name right. But I was raised on, Little Birds and stuff, her erotica collections. And I love complicated relationships and tease and deny and orgasm denial and like erotic hypnosis and like being controlled in a way that is not very PC. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
I
that's
love that.
what I'm into right now. So those are the stories, it's the erotic content that I'm consuming
Ooh,
at
I
this moment.
love that. Okay, what about like your definition of sexy?
Ooh. It's so funny. I feel like the first, like, recognizably, like, sexy character for me was, like, Jessica Rabbit, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember being oh, yeah, right? Like, so hot. But, I was a kid, I didn't understand a lot about how the world works, but I really didn't understand hair, but I knew that I wanted to look like Jessica Rabbit, and so at, like, almost 5, I think I took myself into the bathroom, and I got the like, those nail scissors with the curve?
Yes.
Right? I remember seeing those, and I remember thinking, "Oh, those will be perfect because 'cause I'll get that curve that she has."
Oh, no.
Right, right, because I right, exactly, like, and I'm still struggling with hair, like, we were talking before we recorded of, like, I'm new to bangs, it's not going great, like, I'm doing my best, but even at 5, I started, and it just kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and you know what? I never figured out how to make my hair look like Jessica Rabbit.
I did when I wore a wig that was a really nice Jessica Rabbit wig. And
Yeah.
this is a funny Jessica Rabbit hair story. I decided I never dyed my hair except for once when I was a freshman in college and I got this temporary red hair dye because I was going to be Jessica Rabbit for Halloween and I made a great Jessica, but I didn't. I believed the temporary word and it was lies. It was a
That's
lie
very
because apparently if you have blonde hair, it just stays and then it turns a
it
weird,
just
ugly copper color.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, for
Yep,
the record,
yep.
I think your bangs are doing great. I like them.
Oh, thank
They're
you so much. I
framing. I
appreciate
could
that.
imagine them, like,
Framing.
falling in your eyeballs, and you would go,
Yeah,
and someone would be like,
right.
"Oh," I think it's a vibe.
Like a whimsy. I could
Yeah.
imagine me on a moor somewhere,
I was
like
imagining you, like, witchy vibe, like, very magical.
Oh,
Also, it's very funny that we are yin yang clothing-wise, like, I've got a white tank top, you have a
yeah.
black thing, you have white ear things, I have black ear things, like, that's
Mhm.
very funny. Can you give us just a little snippet overview to your comfort level of what is your sex life like right now and what are your favorite parts? It could be frequency, what you're getting at, you talked about literotica, whatever sparks your fancy.
Sure. Well, I like to read my porn in a variety of formats. So, I have the literotica, I have the physical books, like the witch that I am, and I keep up a texting relationship with a variety of characters, some known and unknown. But I like the live. I'm the perfect test case of like a chat GPT that's like responsive, but I choose real people. But it's yeah, but that's my sexting relationship. I am in a monogamous relationship with my husband. So that is a source of some but not a lot of tension. And I hold the line and decide what that is in an ongoing and evolving way.
I love that. One step at a time. One step at a
One
time.
step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm filling my erotic cup with the thing that I crave the most, which is words.
Mm, I
Yeah.
love that. I wish I could remember the name or find somewhere in this house the first sexy book I read, which I believe was written by a man. And I remember in the beginning, he said, "This is about my 11 lovers." And I know that for some people, that's far too many to have any authority. And for others, it's far too few. And that was just one of my early, and I'm like, if anyone can tell me what this book is ever, I would love to find it. I've scoured this house I'm like, I even finally asked my mom, I was like, "Mom, do you know about that?" She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I'm like, "Was it my dad's book? Like, where did this book
Hmm.
come from?" It might have also just come through a wormhole for me to read it early on, but,
Sure. I do
relate to
feel
the
like there's
words.
yeah, the media finds us. Like what you're it's like I feel spoken to across time. Like me and all of my other like Anais girls, like we find each other. We were chosen.
Do you also write erotic words, or is that something, I mean, I guess we'll get into it with the show, but yeah.
Sure. It's something like if I take on one more writing project right now, my team's gonna quit. So no,
No.
I don't. I spend all of my writing time is spent doing old prose things like a
Cool,
responsible person.
cool.
But like I said, the sexting is two-way.
I love
Sure.
it. Okay. So I would love for you to take us through your personal timeline of sexy learnings, starting with when do you first remember hearing about sex and like understanding it as a concept? And then like thread through to how did we get to old pros?
Yeah, so I think it's important context that, I'm an only child. I was raised an only child on military bases, which meant that we moved every 2 years, right? So it's just like a flush and start over on, like, who the other adults in my life are. And, military culture is a lot in common with the more conservative elements of American culture. There's a lot of like, repression, demonization, but it's also like a place full of young people. It's like hard to explain. Like military bases
I'm
have like,
Air
oh, you
Force
oh,
parents,
so you get it.
so I
Yes, of
didn't move
course.
around because they were in the reserves by the time I was born, but there's this
Sure.
interesting mixture in their friends of, like, sorta
Swingers
con sort
and
yeah, I'm like, it's sorta
yeah,
conservative, but
it's
also, do they all fuck secretly?
yes,
Like,
correct,
did they
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
army wife thing, it's a thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah, like, all of the men are
yeah,
there's a strange dichotomous culture there that is both very real about sex because it's hard to be, like, that much of a prude or have, like, a lot of, like,
yeah,
moral rigidness when your job is to do violence. So, like, there's that part, and, like, sex and war and, like, sex work, like, there's just always a bit of a, I don't know, real talk element about, like, exposed locker room talk maybe would be a way of describing it. And then, my mom was youngest daughter of four, grew up in New Jersey, right? Loves being a Jersey girl at the height of the sexual revolution. She's a child of the 70s. She's fascinating actually because she's the youngest of four, and her two older sisters had criminalized like dangerous like back alley abortions through like a known network, and then her and her next older sister were able to get, like, legal, safe abortion. So there's, like,
oh,
this generational divide that happens, like, within those siblings. My mother came up in, like, very close to New York City, party girl, part of, like, queer culture, and, like, we, uh, we shared genetic material, whereas I come from a long line of, women of appetites is how I would describe it. Um
yes, women of Atlas, it's so
we
good.
somehow find ourselves with these, like, shy guys. I don't know, me and my cousin, we're both, like, absolute, like, filthy freak, like, we both have, like, similar tastes, and we both married these, like, lovely, responsible, handsome, smart guys whose favorite porn is just, like, lovely women having a nice time, and, like, it's we go together.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, sorry, we're back to child. So I grew up an only child, military culture with this like, pro-choice, pro-gay rights mom that also participated in quite a bit of like body shaming, slut shaming, as was the culture, right?
Right.
And then my dad, who had this strange combination of like he grew up in rural Kansas. He was quite a bit older than I was, and like, the product of deep Catholicism, and had a lot more rigid beliefs around sex, and a lot of, like, real talk of, "You're a person, I'm a person, like, I understand that this is gonna happen, and it's kind of my job to, like, figure that." We walked a weird dance, my dad and I. He was, like, so ashamed to tell me about, like, what war actually was, and I was so ashamed to show him this part of me that I knew he knew existed, but sort of, like, asked me to, like, not share with him. Like, our first sex talk, I remember vividly, he said it, and, like, I quote it in my show, so it's now become, like, an entrenched memory of, like, "Caitlin, I need you to listen because I only wanna say this once. I understand that at some point in the future, you will start having some kind of sex. I accept that. And I want you to know first and foremost that if you're ever in any kind of trouble, you can always come to me and I will always help you." I think that's really important because when he was a child of like the 1960s in rural Kansas that did not have a connection to like the city, he saw one of his older sister's girlfriends like bleed out on a table. Like that's what we were dealing with in terms of like access to abortion care and what we were doing to single mothers at that in that era. And so like that's what he was thinking. And then he followed that up immediately with, "But I don't want to know anything about it. I'm giving you permission right now to like lie to me. This is like it's a thing. Like I don't want to know anything what's going on
Okay,
with your
but
sex
what
life."
clarity? Like,
Mhm.
what
It was
oh
great.
my
It was
goddess.
perfect. And then this, and then like another part of the family dynamic is that my mother kind of put me in positions of like violating that over and over again in the name of like honesty that was actually this like more malignant instinct. It's really interesting because we kind of maintained that dynamic, and then like my work, my calling like forced the issue dramatically. And I was part of my work is encouraging people to own their time in this work, right? I encourage people to come out. I believe, like from a political strategist perspective, that we are where the gay rights movement was in the early 1960s. That like everyone knows an old pro and they just don't know it yet, right? Like
Oh,
that we're
yes.
everywhere, right?
I
Like
mean,
slow.
especially with OnlyFans, especially with
Oh,
OnlyFans, and it is
for
interesting
sure,
how
for
people
sure.
put those in different categories, like,
Like the
I'm like
hierarchy is complicated and real and a
yeah, yeah,
survival
yeah,
strategy and lots
yeah.
of complicated things. But like I came out as a sex worker first in my capacity as a stand-up comic, right? Like as a confessional, like telling these stories. And then I did a one-woman show about coming out to my dad without coming out to my dad. But it turns out that when you produce and perform and promote a one-woman show about coming out as a sex worker to your father, your parents hear about it because the internet exists. And so I got this amazing, so my mom, like, summoned me to North Carolina, right? And I was like, I was like, "Yeah, like, I'm pretty, like, I'm,
How
I'm a
old are you at this
successful
point?
writer." I am 26. This is
Okay,
2016.
okay,
So I'm,
okay,
like, in my
okay.
mid-20s. I, like, just got off their health insurance. Like, meh. And so I come home, my mom summons me. She brings me in for a family therapy appointment that only us girls go to. And she says in therapy out loud, "I can't believe you sold your body." And I said, "I didn't. I still have it." And the therapist laughed. Right? Which is that you just
I
won. I
I
won the war with my
my
mom.
mine is it's renting.
Right, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, what,
Sharing.
pieces of myself? What are
I think
you?
it's hard
5?
to
Okay,
get rented. What do you mean?
right.
You want me to do that for free?
And so, like, that part of the story is in the show, but this part isn't. This is, like, the more complicated, like, aftermath effect. So so my mom, like, she's like, "Okay, cat's out of the bag. You have to talk to your father about this," right? So I'm like,
Mm,
"Fine." And he's so he's a John Wayne Republican, like, he's just, he worked so hard so that he didn't have to do this, right? Like, I was supposed to be one of like, he part of my father, I think, believes is, like, one of the spoils of war is the ability to, like, spoil your daughter. Like, he wanted me to be this, like, carefree princess, and I'm just not, and I'm just drawn to, like, to dark things and dark places and, like, wanted this, like, happy-go-lucky fascination with the underworld. And so, like, I show up and he's, like, at the door and he's been prepped, I think. He opens the door and we have this very, like, stern moment. He's like, "Would you like a drink?" I'm like, "Yes," immediately. So we sit down for, like, half a bottle of whiskey and, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on, like, a Wednesday or something, and are sitting there getting progressively drunker, and he gives this amazing speech, right, where he's like, "Children are like arrows and parents are like bows, and, like, you aim, but, like, you don't know what's gonna happen." And all children are destined to disappoint their parents. It's what they do. And there's just nothing that you would ever do that would make me love you any less. And so I'm like, pitch perfect. That's enough. Excellent. Right. I cried. I was so moved. I was so moved. I wrote a Vice article about how well that conversation went. And 2 hours after it was published, my father called me furious on the phone. And he said, "I didn't know you were a prostitute. I thought you were trying to tell me about your abortion." And I was like, "I don't have any shame about my abortion, you crazy old man. Of course I was trying to tell you about the sex work." And we had a weird 2 years. Super weird. Yeah, right? Yeah. Ooh.
Whoa.
We did eventually get to a really good place, and I think that the advocacy helped. I think it was a lot easier for my father to see me as, like, a freedom fighter than, like, as a sex worker, and he was quicker to that issue than my mom. It took my mom longer to embrace, like, decrim as a policy, or my dad was there
Interesting.
politically immediately. He just didn't like, the visuals, which I get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you feel like that has to do with military? I feel like I mean, granted, my military experiences are also skewed by, the proportion of clients, but it also
Sure,
feels
of course.
like they travel the world, it's a thing, and it's living in
Sex
reality.
workers and soldiers, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Along with sex workers and merchants and sex workers
Yes.
and, like, especially clergy back in the day. It's a whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Or just other
Yeah.
healers. Okay.
That relationship is very old, right? Like, so Ishtar. is one of the oldest myths and written records that we have in the ancient world. Ishtar, of course, is like one of the early like mother, like sex and death goddesses. She's the queen of heaven. She's born a virgin every morning. She goes to bed a whore every night, and her temples were these incredible places where people like gathered and shared knowledge, and like cool shit happened in the temples of Ishtar. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of Western civilization's oldest stories, Ishtar sends a harlot to teach Enkidu, right? The like feral warrior, to bathe and have table manners and to like fuck the violence out of him. And like, thousands of years later, the Catholic Church also recognized the salve on male violence that like sex, which is how one of many reasons that like it's complicated, but like the Catholic Church became the largest brothel owner in Europe for 400 years, in part because of this devil's bargain of wanting to protect, right, respectable women from the appetites of these men that they weren't like allowing to marry. And it was like a whole thing. But
Yeah.
sex magic and yeah, like whore energy, warrior energy, sex workers and soldier, like there's this intertwining and also kind of like opposite energy that walk like in parallel with each
Yeah.
other
I
across
mean,
history.
also, like, nervous system wise, healing. Like, these gnarly ass things are happening. The animal body
Yeah,
is like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And what we need is to reconnect and feel safe. And that certainly all the neurochemicals that get released, like, that's you fall into some loving arms and other places. And
yeah,
that's, you sheath the sword, so they say.
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Wow. Can you fill in a little bit of formative details? Like, just did you get a sex
Oh,
ed?
yes,
Did
gosh,
you
I
get a
got
talk?
oh, yeah. Oh,
Are
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
comfy
Okay,
talking about your
I did
like,
the
and
dad
then,
talk.
like yeah, I know it's so
Sure.
good, but I'm like, fill
I
us
know, no,
in and
no. So
also,
yeah, no,
like yeah, and, like, do
continue.
you talk about sex work your sex work publicly? Like, how much do you I mean, I don't
We'll see how far we get. So, like, going back still, like, all right, like, I'm a brat and the only child, and my dad's got this weird stuff, my mom's got this other weird stuff, and then there's the cultural context, like, on top of the, like, interfamily stuff, which is that I was being raised by, like, a super progressive, but also, like, deeply internalized her own, like, slut shaminess mom, and my more conservative dad in North Carolina in the 1990s, which is the peak Bush administration abstinence only education. We're like paying taxpayer money for these like Christian people to like dress up as nurses and give fake information about how bodies work. It was horrific. And I was taking the OWL program through the Unitarian Church, the like our whole lives. So I had this like very disparate access to multiple points of information. And my mom was a very like, this is Planned Parenthood, this is a place that you can go for information, like walking distance of our house. So I got into like, oh, sex ed matters and is an important piece of resistance. And I became the person at school in middle school, right? That like understood how STIs were transmitted, understood how they could be tested for, where you would go for that. And so it became a source of information for all of the people around me for the like the not sexy parts of sex. Like that's part of what I did. I started volunteering for Planned Parenthood before I lost my virginity. And then when I didn't so much lose my virginity. Again, like I'm at home starting from like a too young an age, right? Reading these like filthy stories, right? Like humping furniture or whatever. I am a pariah. I am b- bringing my unbridled and as yet, like young witch shit, right? Like it's just like spewing off in like every
yeah.
imaginable direction. I am only making the adults uncomfortable and most of my peers. So I didn't like lose my virginity so much as like shove it onto this like shy guy with a lot of like Miss Piggy energy. And
Wait, he did or you had Miss Piggy
I
energy?
did.
You
No, no,
oh,
no.
okay.
I had yeah. I was like, "Take me," and he's like, "I'm nervous." Like, yeah. I was like, "Okay, it's great." I met the person that I lost. Took feels like the wrong
Yeah.
word given
You
the
had your
dynamics of what was
sexual
happening.
partner debut with this
My
person.
yes, my first debut, which wasn't great. Yeah, I didn't there was no star potential there right from the jump. But I had my sexual debut with a nice man, that I met on the, debate team,
On the what?
which is the same debate team, the
The
debate
debate
team.
team.
Which is the same debate team that I met my husband on.
Cute.
Yes, so cute, right? We're so and that so this like, I don't know, the debate team had kind of a lot of, like, band camp kid energy, like, there's a lot of, like, nerds fucking and stuff. Like, so that was, I think that was my intro to, like, actual sexcapades outside of the, wonderful literary world of
What about
yeah.
solo like, had you touched yourself at that point? Like, did you know about
I
you
was
must have known about that.
I was and remain yeah, I'm one of those frustrating actors that, like, read, all of, who's the self-pleasure advocate? I'm such a fan. Starts with D. She did all of the, like, vulva art images. She, like, wrote the first book on, like,
Uh,
self-pleasure.
Debbie, no, Dodson, Betty Dodson.
Nothing. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I read Betty Dodson's book and then still remained committed to the false narrative that there would be a magical man that came through my life one day, and that's kind of what it was.
Interesting.
I know,
Whoa.
I know, it's so
Whoa.
contradictory. Here I am handing out, right,
Yeah, yeah,
condoms,
yeah.
information, reject shame, embrace your slut, and then I won't touch myself out of a weird sense of, like, defiance and weird internal I used to there was this guy and my best friend who we're still friends, and there's a danger with keeping people around too long because they remind you of, like, who you were, and so whenever I, like, complain about sex too loud, Ember's just like, "I don't know. I know the 14-year-old girl that used to think that sex was a battle of wills and the person who came first lost. So this might be a you issue, actually,
But, like,
which
I
is
love I love that
a
I love
fair
that we
sentence."
evolve. I love they remind you. I love how weird and complicated and contradictory
Yeah,
each human is.
of
This is
course.
why I cannot stop studying them. I cannot have enough human
Yeah,
experiments because they are
yeah.
wild, each one.
Wild.
Wild.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
like, I look, Phantom of the Opera was formative for me.
Mine me too, me too. I believe that I developed
Girl.
my other woman kink by, like, I over-identifying with the Phantom like, I definitely have, like, a love triangle yep. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
love triangle is important, right, yeah. I
Yep,
wanna be
yep.
brought to a basement and made to sing against my will. It's not great, right? It's confusing dating. That's, like, I have deep empathy for everyone. It's God bless. Yeah, it's not great.
Wait, so when did you start touching yourself? After partner debut?
I started humping furniture pretty early. I remember there
Oh.
was an awkward conversation between my parents about it where my mom was like, "This is normal," and my dad is like, "She is simulating sex," and my mom said, "Yeah, that's what I said." So
Your
and my
mom
dad
sounds
put that in a big cupboard category of girl stuff that was none of his business.
oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. So you had a partner debut. You said it was okay. Did you like sex?
Pleasure was not
Like,
the goal. I
yeah,
was
okay.
100% performance oriented, and at that point, I'd
Ah,
already decided that I, like, wanted to be a sex worker. I was, like, filled with
really?
fascination.
Wait,
But,
how
yeah,
did
sex
you
was
know?
the
What was your moment?
part of it was reading about them,
Okay.
and then the moment where I think and every sex worker is different, right? Of, like, when did you become a whore, right? For me, I believe it was the moment that I first posted on the message board that would eventually lead to an appointment. For other folks, it's like walking through the threshold. For other folks, it's like the completion of that like first episode or whatever. But for me, it was like the moment of posting was when the critical decision had been made. And everything that happened after that was just like what happens next because when you say you're going to do something, you do it. That's how I was raised. So, yeah, right?
Same. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow
So,
through.
that was my first, that's when I became a sex worker. I started humming furniture. I was, like, filled with all of these, like, make me feel things against my will fantasies, which did not set any of my peers up for success at all. And then I started doing sex work, and I got to embody this whole other character, this confident, sexy I was never a dom, but I did not allow myself to be topped professionally. Like, there was, like, a control element there that was, like, both for safety and also, like, part of the character that I was, like, inhabiting. And I liked her. She's sexy and, like, confident and, like, got shit done, made things happen, and protected me in a lot of ways. I felt
Mm,
like I sort of, like, tapped into this, like, older, ancient something I now recognize as, like, sacred
yeah,
energy
yeah.
embodying that character, and it was also a way of, like, nicely sidestepping the social consequences of being so thirsty.
Mm.
'Cause I got to have secret sex and not, like, bother, the people in my real life. Yeah.
Whoa. So it was, like, separate for you.
Mhm. 100%. Yeah.
And it seems like
Yeah.
it was fun to have that, like
Who doesn't wanna be James Bond, but for sex with, of course, you're leaving a double life, you see things and smell things that other people around you can't. There's a feral not feral is the wrong word, but there's a, underworldness that just opens. It's a very similar feeling to being a stand-up comedian, right? Like, as a stand-up comedian, there are just all of these doors all over the world that I can just open, and step into and, be a comic and, do 5 minutes or hang out or do, or a performer or, in I imagine what it feels like to be, in the circus. You are both in, but not quite of the society around you. You
Mhm.
are that, but you are also something else, and you have access to this, deeply criminalized, stigmatized, secretive world that is available, but not accessible to everyone.
Wow. I have such a wildly different experience, and I love this because
Yeah, because
I feel
sex
like
work is such a broad.
yeah, and because I
Yeah.
feel so separate from the world all the time, I feel like I, like, came above ground and I'm like, "Ah, finally living my dreams and being my full self the way I am in a way that it's accepted
Mm,
here."
mm, mm. Oh, that's so cool.
I'm finally
Right.
all of me, and it's fine. Looking back, it was so obvious. Oh, not one single person is surprised. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So you see, I felt like a true part of myself was, revealed, but, characterized,
I'm not
characterified, I
I've
guess.
had
You don't
people
play a character. Do you
no,
use your
and
real
it
name?
well, I'm Luna everywhere, and I've started introducing myself as Luna everywhere now, and I
Wow.
haven't abandoned YO, and people can find my original legal name, but I never liked that
Yeah.
name, so people are like, "What's your real name?" And I'm like, "Well, my favorite name is Luna
Sure.
because it doesn't get mispronounced." I didn't realize YO was gonna be so hard to pronounce. I just wanted search engine optimization. I also didn't mean for that to be my main name, like, and the joke is that YO lives on Luna in the book The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. That's it, and
Listen,
you know I had someone be like, "Well, your nudes are on OnlyFans, so you're a sex worker." And I was like,
yeah, tracks. Yeah.
"I you know, I could be like
Yeah.
those lovely ladies waiting in the dark." Like,
Like those lovely ladies waiting in the dark.
that was my
Yeah.
14-year-old moment. I was like,
Yeah.
"How did they get to be" and because of my rejection, I was like, "Wait, you're telling me there's a job where you can have sex and get money for it?" Like, I
I know.
got
That's
rejected so much.
exactly how I felt.
I was
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "It's a people don't like that job? That's not a you
Right.
don't
That's
wanna what do you
crazy.
mean?"
You don't wanna have sex? I'm
I'm like
sorry, but
I'm like
the sex in the movies? You
I'm
don't
like,
wanna have.
"You could get so much money," and then I started to find out how much money you would get, and I was
Oh my
like,
god, it's
"Wait,"
crazy.
and then
Yeah.
I finally realized that people find me very sexy
Yeah, that was a big reveal to me as well, right? Because 'Cause I've been throwing myself at dudes that
and
were,
probably scaring
know,
them, right?
terrifying
Yeah,
them. Still
yeah, so
do.
I
Yeah,
thought
again,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so the structure of a session, right? The structure of an appointment was very helpful to me to create this, contained
Yes.
boundary place for what had become this, ungovernable sexuality that was, ruining my life.
Yeah. Wait, can you say how it was ruining your life? Because I was making terrible choices and spending all my time trying to have sex and feeling bad about it.
Correct, yeah, I wasted 5 hours watching this dude that I definitely wanted to bone play Dungeons& and Dragons for, a whole afternoon, and then he didn't have sex with me. It was, it's just the amount of time squandered putting myself in, general proximity of, people with biceps was just, a silly waste of time and
Yeah.
energy.
And then once I
Yeah,
would find one that would keep having sex with me, I would keep it no matter
I'm
how
on it.
terrible it treated me. I was like and it
Of
took
course,
me a
yeah,
while to
absolutely.
and because I was so happy to be having sex when people were like,
Oh,
"Good
yeah.
sex, bad sex." I was like, "What do you
Nah,
mean?
it's like pizza.
I'm
Yeah,
having it. It's
absolutely.
great. They're touching me."
I've definitely experienced bad sex, but, I was definitely more interested in the eroticism than the real life, and so because of my proclivities, this meant that, like, I liked abusers for too long
Yeah.
and didn't have, like, the space or the words or the boundaries or self-reflection. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s, it was long after I'd been doing sex work, but I was working for a political campaign, and I met this strapping professor on an airplane who, in a very short period of time, just explained to me that I was submissive, and it changed my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, wait, can you tell details of that story?
He was a German stat professor at a university in California, and we were on an airplane, and I am a talkative and, extroverted person, and he was German, but we overcame that. We're chatting, and then at the end, we were, like, waiting for our luggage, and he was like, "I would like to buy you a drink." And I was like, "Are you coming on to me?" And he's like, "I am." So, we had a lovely date that really didn't, like, go anywhere physically. He was flying out and there was no place for us to sort of be, but there was chemistry there. And then I was working on campaigns. I was in my early 20s, and I was assigned to where he taught, right, which was not the city that we met in. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, I have this wild idea. I have to run this campaign, which is like 120 hours a week. I will have no time for like 3 months. And I am looking for a place to stay. And it would be very convenient if I just stayed with you. And that would maximize our time together, is going to be like few and far between. It's like a 7 day. This is Progressive campaigns don't respect labor laws. It doesn't matter. But I was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
fully committed to like making it happen. And he was like, sold. So I moved in with this guy for 3 months, and we played and did other things. It got weird at the end. Life is so, like, it's like if you write this in a story, it's like, "It's too much to squeeze in."
Life is the best writer.
There's, like, also fucking one of my subordinates because, like, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of myself, but, like, we were very young and doing political
I don't know.
campaign sex is
I was gonna say,
extraordinary.
I've
It's
always
so good.
fucked or at least made out with and fooled around with people at every job I've ever had, like I was built for this.
Amazing. It's perfect. So you get it, right? Yeah, but, like, so yeah, we're hooking up, and then I don't think that this was malicious. He thought that he was infertile, and it turns out that he had a low sperm count, and those are different. So
Yeah.
I got knocked up. And so I was experiencing morning sickness with this, like, poor professor who kept telling me to go to the hospital because I was, like, throwing up, like, all day, every day. So I'm running this campaign, right? So I'm, like, getting up at, like, I'm throwing my body at which is, like, first trimester of pregnancy is, like, crazy. So I thought that I had stomach I had no idea that I was pregnant. But, like, so the end of our time together was me just, like, experiencing morning sickness, having no context for it, and then him trying to feed me all of this, like, German get better food, which, like, mornings that you like, it's incorrect. Right, and I was like, "I have to get out of here, this is terrible, I can't." And so then I went home, because 'cause I'd been reassigned, from the, where was I? Yeah, from the California office to, we were doing an election campaign in Pennsylvania. And so I went home, took a pregnancy test, told my mother, to her great credit, she was so relieved. She was like, "Oh my god, we can take care of that. Like, I'm so glad it's not stomach cancer."
Yeah.
Right? Like, I made an appointment at a lovely, abortion clinic in North Carolina. I'm sorry that, telling this story embarrasses me, but okay, I just want listeners to know that, like, I know, I know how this sounds. So I'm 25. I got knocked up in California and rejected this lovely professor that was trying to introduce me to a sexual awakening, but I was too nauseous to receive my lessons. I come back to North Carolina, find out I'm pregnant. It's a relief. I seek care. I walk into this abortion clinic. They say, super reasonable question, "What kind of anesthesia would you like?" And I say, "I've been an abortion rights activist my entire life. I would like to be fully present for the experience."
Oh my
"No!
goddess.
Don't do that! That's stupid! You're not proving anything to anyone."
No.
So this nurse looked at me, right, and went, "Okay." That's not the worst part. I doubled down.
Okay.
So I got the abortion. It was fine, right? It hurt, but it was fine. Like, no complications. The morning sickness went away immediately, which was fascinating. I've, like, never been so ravenous. And then, like a month later, I go in for an IUD, right? Because I'm obviously looking for like a different, better form of birth control. And I walk into the same Planned Parenthood that I've been volunteering at since I was 15, right? This is 10 years later. They know me, girl. They know me, right? Like I've been doing STI testing there every month, like proud. Go in, and I'm like, I'm gonna do an IUD, and they were like, okay, did you want to take the like cervix softener, or like, do you want any like, like pain management or whatever? And then my dumbass said, I just had a completely unmedicated, no anesthesia abortion, so I'm good. And
Oh,
they went in, I passed out, came to, threw up on myself immediately, and then had to sit in the waiting room for an hour to wait for my legs to stop shaking.
your little soul ball signed up for interesting things. I mean,
So much.
wow. So, was the professor a client or a free place to stay or a combination?
Not a client, just
Okay.
a man I met on an airplane I had genuine chemistry with, and then I got a free place to stay, and both of those things are true at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But at that point, yeah, I was a opportunistic machine, and that's what I mean about the smell. Like, I felt like my experiences as a sex worker, it, like, heightened that, like, sensory part of you. So, like, I could walk into bars or places and, like, you can make people talk to you with your eyes, you know?
I recently learned that like an embarrassingly short amount of time ago.
Yeah.
I've had to learn everything long form. I'm like, what is the
Yeah.
human program? And I pay really close attention. And then I'm now I am charming
Yes.
more wittingly. Okay, so at this point in your journey, where are we now? We're 25, 26. Are we
Yeah, 25, 26. I've burnt out on campaigns. I
okay?
think I'm studying for the LSAT, and instead I start comedy.
Okay. Are you still
Yeah.
doing sex work at this point, or had you left that chapter? Like, what was the no? Okay.
No. Periodically. So I did sex work, like the very tail end of high school and the very beginning of college, and then sort of like quit. That was my first stint with it, because I came to it from a place of, curiosity and not necessity.
Yeah.
And then later, deeper into my comedy journey, so like a few years after this, I came back to sex work that in order to subsidize the comedy
Comedy.
career.
Oh
So
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Mine is to subsidize this podcast.
Yeah, right?
My
Yeah,
great
support
passion
this show.
project.
Do Patreon, like and subscribe. It's helpful. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
we're doing this for love of the game, guys. It's
totally,
there's 6
totally.
people who make money in podcasting. Anyway, so I came back to sex work, and I needed the money this time, which changed the dynamic a little bit. So, I was in New York, which was, like, a little bit of a scarier market to navigate, but at that point, that was sort of, like, the height of the sugaring craze, and so
Yeah.
I got into sugaring, but with the skills of an
Yes.
escort, and that is the
Ooh.
order I recommend. I do not recommend doing it the other way around,
No,
because
I don't.
these dudes, they
Oh,
will dude, wine, it doesn't matter how expensive the wine was that you drank. You can't pay your rent with it. That doesn't
yeah,
count
exactly.
towards what.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And it's like faux taking care of you. Like there's this sort of yeah, if they're not actually taking care.
no, they are doing a fantasy at you, and that
Yeah,
they want to buy you lingerie and shoes. You need health insurance and rent, and that's different. They
yeah.
don't wanna do that part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them you gotta find the right ones, but, I haven't
Yes.
fo I do have direct stories from direct people whose stories I trust,
Mhm.
and I have counseled
Yes.
people and helped
Yep.
them achieve
Yep.
incredible things. I myself, no, and do I believe the people who say they only have dinner? I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do.
I it's complicated, right? Because like, I kind of do, because I know that those clients exist, right?
Exist.
I had many clients that were either unable or
True.
uninterested. It's complicated and confusing. Like, and the world of philanthropy is not, there's a lot of transferable skills, but, like, there are a lot of people out there for whom, like, providing support or giving money, it's part of it, you
I
know?
love it.
It's not exactly a direct exchange. Sometimes
Okay,
it's
so
all part of it.
did you have fun? Like, was there any fun? What was the game? Like, was it still
I
kind of the,
love
like, power dynamic? Yeah, what's the part that draws
yeah,
you?
I loved playing yeah, I loved playing the horn. I loved, like, being manipulative. Like, I loved, like, finding stories because the thing with sugaring is you can't kinda it's like a less honest space
That's why
than the
I'm so
direct
bad.
sex
I
work.
didn't
Oh,
know.
oh, bless you. Yeah, of
Like
course, no,
like,
you're
I
too
didn't I'm
yeah.
like, "Yes, manipulative. Great idea in that space. If only," and
If only yeah.
my first, like, test for myself was to go on a date with this man who looked like a peanut. Like, I call him a peanut, and
Yes.
this is where I learned that
So
I
good.
am attracted to energy of all ages,
Yeah.
and, like, it didn't even have to be like, he was totally bullshitting, like, the gift he gave me afterward was very tiny compared to the gift that he said he was gonna give me, so, you know,
Yep,
and
that's yep,
I also had a great time,
I
and I was
know.
like, "I
Yeah,
gotta
I
do
know.
this differently."
It's so funny. Oh, it's
Wow.
so funny.
Wow, okay, so
Yeah.
you were playing the game,
I
like, and you
liked it.
knew it,
I
you
did
liked it,
like
okay.
I
Yeah.
I knew yes, I was playing the game and I knew it within bounds. I was probably a little bit more explicit than, many it's all on a spectrum. But I also understood that part of my job was creating narrative and storyline around the money that was different from being paid for sex. That
Yeah.
was like part of what was happening.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so fill in the gap, like, I mean, I feel like I could definitely, like, grill you with specific questions for hours, so take us up to where did you start? Like, when did the show come in? When did you start Old Pros? Like,
Sure. Sure, sure,
how did
sure.
connect our dots?
So I subsidized my first one-woman show with one of my sugar daddies, which was lovely. Yeah, that was, like, 25, 26 when I, like, came out or, like, was outed where I outed myself to my parents. That's where we
It's
are, we've
incredible.
arrived. It's
Incredible.
mid-20s. It's what is why it's so I mean, that's the part where, like, just being an only child is, like, the trump card of, like, "Alright, guys, do you wanna find acceptance or be alone for Christmas?" That's, they make good choices. What how do you wanna do this? So I'm doing that. I'm a stand-up comedian. I have this one-woman show. I'm talking openly about my sex work, and that's when sex worker advocacy kind of found me first in my capacity as a stand-up comic. So I was like booked to perform at some like sex worker conferences and sex worker gatherings. And my like political nerds, remember I used to run like political field
Yeah.
campaigns, perked up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this matters. Of course, decrim is. Oh, they've been doing this for decades. That's what? Why?" And fell into this like legacy and lineage
Mm.
of sex workers advocating for themselves and telling their stories and reclaiming their narrative. And then Sesta Fosta passed. And I don't know how hard you've covered Sesta Fosta on the
On this
podcast.
podcast, very little. It's
Okay.
mostly personal stories of people, yeah,
Okay.
when
All right.
very
Well,
and 0 of them so far have been advocates to the level that you are.
oh, okay. All right. Well, then let's strap in. This part's going to be educational. So, SESTA FOSTA stands for Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking and Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. And this was signed by Donald Trump, not that it matters, in 2018. Like 98% of legislators supported it, Democrats, Republicans, because stopping sex trafficking sounds like a good idea. Who could possibly be against actively preventing especially sexual suffering of women and children? But like a lot of laws that have come before this law, and like a lot of laws I'm sure will come after it, so much prohibitionist policy has been sold in the name of and with the language of protecting vulnerable people from violence, and it does no such thing.
Does the opposite oftentimes.
We know what prohibition does to markets, it does not make them safer. And Sesta Fosta was no exception. It erased the places that sex workers, like my friends and I, had been using to schedule and screen our clients, trade critical harm reduction, safety information with each other, to connect with one another. And I watched, right, as friends of mine lost not just their livelihoods, but also their social media accounts and their bank accounts and their homes and their kids and like places to live. And this law, it caused chaos and it did what we all knew it was going to do. Sex workers were screaming about this law before it was passed and no one could hear us, right? It
Yeah.
it still upsets me that like Amy Schumer did a series of PSAs, right? She is a female comedian that talks mostly about sex stuff. And she was like, it's so important for us to pass this law because it's as easy to order a child for sex as it is to order a pizza. Not right. And then she went on the whore tour, having done everything in her power to disempower, right, adult consensual sex workers. And so this law has had devastating consequences, not just amongst sex workers and erotic performers, but also sex health
Education.
educators.
Yes, yes,
It's
that's
been the
yes,
inroad. Yep.
yes, yep,
Anyone talking, the definition of obscenity is a slippery shapeshifter, and depending on who's in power, can mean queer people, information about contraception,
yep,
information about women's bodies. In the immediate aftermath of the passage of SESTA FOSTA, Instagram banned hashtag women so as to avoid not being in violation of this law. It's wild, right? Because the way that we police prostitution actually is we police where women go, who they associate with, and what they wear. That's how we do it. And there's never been a period in history where laws targeting sex workers have not been used on people, mostly women and visibly queer people, who have never had sex for money. So that was Sesta Fosta. That was the activating, as we call it, the advocacy, an activating moment for me. So I went from being a degenerate comedian doing sex work to subsidize my art, drug vocation. It's confusing. Um, to getting a lot less funny immediately and becoming a righteous advocate for the I was radicalized by this, in part because of the juxtaposition within my community. Because as a stand-up comic, I was supposed to be amongst free speech advocates. I was supposed to be amongst people that get it, right? That also navigate these kind of shadow spaces. And the ubiquity of this like false narrative of like, oh no, this is gonna help. Probably, yeah, if we censor the internet hard enough, we can save kids from
yeah,
rape. Well, bad news for you. Child exploitation and violent rape predate the internet by like a lot. So I don't think
yeah,
that their
yeah,
causal relationship is there as much as you think it is. And so, I got really mad, which is often the first ingredient in starting something new. And so I took a big step back from comedy and got more firmly in the sex worker rights space. I became the director of communications, the founding director of communications for Decriminalized Sex Work, which is an excellent organization that is pursuing a state by state strategy to decriminalize sex work. And they do great work working with sex worker communities and lobbyists and educating legislators. And it's going to be a multi decades process. But after speaking with state legislators for a couple of years, I realized a few important things. First, I was not put on this earth to talk to state legislators for the rest of my life. I could feel it in my whole body. It's not great. And two, even if I was, legislators, elected politicians cannot lead on this issue. We will not get good policy about sex work unless and until we change the narrative. And so I redirected my efforts away from direct lobbying and policy towards social cultural narrative change.
yes,
And
yes.
out of that, Old Pros, which is a nonprofit media organization that uses storytelling to advocate for sex worker rights, was born. And so we focus on history and humor to try to change the stories we tell about sex workers. And we help people recognize that we have always been not just contributing members of society, but like absolute baddies. We have been folks, we have built theaters, we have created whole new cultural and technological trends. We've always been entrepreneurs and early adopters and innovators and artists and 1,001 other wonderful things, not in spite of our sex work, but because of our sex work. It has enabled sex work has funded more students, artists, and entrepreneurs than all of the grants in all of human history. And I help people reclaim that for themselves and change the story internally and then amongst peers and friends and then eventually come out because I think it's going to take more of us telling our stories in order to really do the kind of important narrative change work that leads to real lasting legislative change.
Yeah, well, and especially since I mean, I can only imagine what talking to legislators is like because especially since most people are uncomfortable talking about sex at all.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
especially publicly, especially someone who is a politician, has this idea about the public eye, blah, blah, blah. And I started this podcast in 2018 having no idea what I was getting into other than I had had my sexual awakening in 2017 and I saw how uncomfortable like all I could understand from the Me Too conversations is that like I'm like everyone's not talking about the important stuff here. They're not talking
Oh, yeah,
about
they're just fully
why
skipping
or
over it.
how to they're blame, shame, and judgment conversations. I wonder why that is. And finally I was like, I think they're uncomfortable. I think they can't. I don't understand it. But and then I started
And
talking to
they
people. I think they
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, I
I think they
remember
can't.
distinctly
Yeah,
watching some blonde news anchor cover the, like, Aziz Ansari and Grace scandal, and I remember being so baffled. I was like, "Wait, this is TV right now?" I was like, "How are these the
right,
grown-up conversations?" And that's
right.
when I was like, "I'm not that shy," and I'm stumbling down the longest rabbit hole, and I am grateful, and also I am but an egg. The more I learn, the less I
It's
know.
deep.
It's deep.
Yeah,
It's real
it's
deep.
deep. It's very deep. For me, legislators, it wasn't their discomfort that was the problem for me. It was the position that they were in and their, like, inability. It didn't matter if they agreed with me privately, it was just
Yes.
never gonna be worth it to, like, to take the risk to make this both sides, right? The Democrats and
Yeah.
the Republicans are united that, prostitution should be obliterated for different reasons, but it's the same goal.
Yeah.
And so that was very frustrating, and then also the, like, political process of it, like, you would move as a community organizer, and I know that there are so many amazing community organizers out there doing the Lord's work to do this, and bless them, and thank you. I just could not. You move mountains to get sex workers in the state that you're organizing in to come out, to sit in a committee on microphone surrounded by cameras where they have to say to people in suits at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday that they are a sex worker. And then they just move the committee meeting. Like, and
Yep.
then you and
Yep.
then, and right, and so, like, all of the, like, the emotional, logistical prep work of, like, getting people to take the brave step, and it's like, "Oh, they're not available on Thursday." Alright, start it, I mean, it's just maddening,
Yeah.
and we really need people to tell their stories.
Well, I'm working on it, and LOL that I didn't reach out to you sooner because I didn't realize that's what you did. Because 'cause I've been sitting here for the last couple of years being like, "Well, I like what I do. I don't know. Is it more helpful? Is it not helpful? Which one's more helpful?" Blah, blah, blah.
It's very helpful.
And finally, I was just like, "Ah, I gotta be me. I don't know. I'm all of me."
Yeah, of
Also,
course.
it's like, I think it's been obvious to anyone who's paid attention that deeply, which is not very many people, and there was some fun in the breadcrumbing of all of it. Well,
Of
okay, so, like,
course.
what's your greatest like, in your ideal world, what would the best possible outcome be?
I mean, sex workers have been speaking with one voice on this for decades, right? Like, we have been asking for decriminalization before the term sex work was coined. So, like, sex workers have always sort of resisted criminalization, containment, and control. But the sex worker rights movement, as we know it, began on June 2nd in 1975, when sex workers all over Lyon, France, well, starting in Lyon and then all over France, occupied churches with often the blessing of the priest, and they hung banners that read, "Our children do not want their mothers in jail." They were protesting, like, rampant police corruption and violence and the unwillingness to, like, look for a serial killer that was targeting sex workers and this, like, revolving door of, like, arrests and fines that were, like, just very corrupt. And they made a lot of good points, and they made the international news, and sex worker organizations sort of popped up, all over the world after that. The first World Whores Congress, was organized by Coyote, which was the, first US sex worker organization. That stands for Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics. Margaret St. James founded that. In 1973. They put together the first and second World Whores Congress in the 1880s in Europe. And sex workers have been very explicit that we want the decriminalization of sex work. We want to remove criminal penalties for having consensual sex with other adults, even if money is exchanged. And in 1995, New South Wales, which is where Sydney is in Australia, became the first place to decriminalize sex work. And in 2003, New Zealand became the first country to decriminalize sex work. And that has been going very well by the metric of reduced violence and STIs and increased confidence among sex workers to report crimes committed against us ever since. So that would be the ideal.
Do you wanna hear my crazy idea? Like my
Please.
dream?
Sure.
Health insurance should cover one visit at least a month, ideally a week.
Yeah,
That's what I want
that would
because
be great.
it would
Yeah,
help so many people, and then
absolutely.
we could have access, and then it would create jobs, and then it would
Yeah,
demand
yeah,
education, and then there would be hands-on education, and I really, really cannot stop my dream of education-forward healing centers that I, in my head, call super brothels. You know,
yeah,
taking it to the next level, having spaces where whether a couple wants to come to a workshop, like I want an all-inclusive resort that is truly all-inclusive, full
You're
service
trying
all-inclusive result. That's my
you're
dream.
trying to recreate the temples of Ishtar.
Is that what they are?
It's
I
all of it.
literally keep all of my, like, brain ideas. I have not
Mhm.
done enough research. I mean, I've done
You
a
should
great amount,
yeah,
but
like yeah, the sacred whore figure is important, like, so I think it's important for context to recognize that, like, temples were the organizing institution of the ancient world, right? That's where people gathered, it's where surplus was gathered, it's where scripture was invented, they were the keeper of the fire, like, it's where all of the nomadic tribe, like, came, right? Over and over and over
yeah.
again back to the temple. It's the first, like, anchor for
Well,
civilization. It's
that's what I want to make. I guess I'm gonna
right.
have to learn about this.
Gathering place, it's a performance space,
Yes,
it's an
yes.
education space, it's a healing space,
Have
and
you
it's a space.
looked at my map? I
I mean,
draw
listen,
I
yeah,
draw
it's
it all the time. I draw it and I redraw it and I draw it, and then every time I go to the ranch,
yeah.
I stare at the oasis and I imagine the version I dream of, and that is what I obsess about constantly, and that's when people are, like, trying to regular date me. I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I'm busy." Like,
I have things to build, yeah,
I have things to
yeah,
build. Wow.
yeah.
Oh my goddess. What are the next steps for you? Like, what are you interested in? What can, if people are listening and they're like, I want to do something, what do they do? How do they see your show, etc.?
Yes, first, get on the Old Pros mailing list. We send out a newsletter every Friday that is a
God bless
roundup
you.
of sex worker rights related news from all over the world, in addition to opportunities to see me perform live, new podcast episodes, media appearances, the things. But yeah, so if you want to stay in the know like an old pro, sign up at oldprosonline.org. That is also where you will find my one woman show called The Oldest Profession that is a comedic mad dash through 10,000 years of history from a sex worker's perspective. I am currently touring that. I have shows coming up in LA and Portland and Seattle and Austin and New Orleans and Boston and DC and Missouri. I'm sure there are other cities, but you can find all of my upcoming tour dates at theoldestprofession.org. Yeah, or you can sign up for our email list and we'll email you about them, whatever's easier for you. And of
Oh
course,
my goddess.
if you liked me talking, there's a lot more of that available to you. You can subscribe to the Oldest Profession podcast, and I will just explain sex worker history to you in hour-long chunks, if that's something that you're interested in.
I'm so interested and I have literally been so excited to dive more into your stuff. How
Oh,
do
great.
you organize your life? All of that is a lot.
Thank you. I'm very blessed. I have an incredibly supportive partner who makes a lot of this possible, and I have a supportive team. So I'm the founder and executive director of Old Pros. We're a nonprofit media organization, and our focus is changing the stories that we tell about sex work. I feel like I was put on this earth to do that, and I have been very, very blessed to have supporters that see that vision that have, supported Old Pros growing into the small but mighty change-making agent that it is.
I fucking love that so much. Lovers,
Thank
links
you.
are in the description below. Go click them, go subscribe. Tell me what shows you guys are going to because I'm going. I'm like, when am I going? I'm going.
And if you do come to a show and you did hear about this podcast, please stick around. Like, I love to talk to people after the shows. Like, stick around, say hi, tell me that you heard this podcast. I will blush because it's more information than I usually give on my normal podcast. It's mostly my podcast is mostly about history, so I don't usually indulge this level of
Oh, well, thank you.
self-reveal.
Thank you for
But thank
opening
you.
up.
Yeah.
I am so, so grateful. And Kaytlin Bailey, thank you for being a guest on Sex Stories.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for the work that you do.
Lovely humans, that is our show. Remember to follow your hearts and follow your parts and follow me on the internet for links to all the things podcast guest submissions, photo sessions, creative coaching, or to wander deeper down my internet rabbit holes. Head to sexstoriespodcast.com and lunarabi.com. Support the show and get ad-free episodes and access to the community live streams at patreon.com/howtowoo. To go deeper, see my exclusive self-portraits, masturbation, meditation, sensation, explorations of edging, or to tell me your most personal pleasures, thoughts, and feelings, maybe you even show me, join me on OnlyFans. Links are in the description below. Remember to tell a friend, leave a review, heart, or thumbs up this show wherever you're listening. It helps us grow, and you know I love watching things grow. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, let me know how you're spreading ripples of love, and remember to share sex stories.